Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome, welcome to Exhale with Regina. I have two beautiful guests with me today. I have Ann Powers, who is currently living and from Louisiana, as well as Robin Wilson. With, Wilson. I don't know, Robin, why it's not coming out. But anyway,
Okay.
Wilson. I got stuck there for a minute.
You're okay.
But thank you. I am so happy to have both of you here. Robin is from Michigan, been here all her
Yeah.
life. And Robin, so have I. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. So
Yay.
really grateful. Ann is the only one that has traveled all over the waters to get here to the United States, right? So we're very glad to have you here, Ann and Robin. And it's just wonderful to be here on a Friday. I've been ripping and running. Normally, I don't do that on a Friday, but I'm glad that we are before one another and I'm looking forward to the interview. I
Yeah.
just want to give some, what Exhale with Regina is all about. Exhale with Regina purpose is really to bring forth women who have exhaled into their purpose. They've gone through adversities and challenges, and they are standing strong in their purpose, and they can freely talk to other women. And sometimes we may think that that's perfect, but it's not, is it? It's a slopey road, right?
Yeah.
Or hill, it's slopey, and nothing is straight about what we're doing. And I want to welcome my guests who thank you so much for joining, and for all the other ones who are going to look at the replay. We thank you for being here. And those who are going to arrive later. So you'll hear it if you listen to it, that we're welcoming our audience, and we also welcome your comments. So just a little bit more about Exhale with Regina, right? So Exhale with Regina is designed to help women to see themselves, and that's so
Mhm.
important. Many women, not all women, can struggle with seeing their talents, their gifts, and their abilities, and they get really locked into comparison and low self-esteem, and having a poor self-image of themselves. And so it's really about us speaking life and
Yes.
breathing into other women, and even other women breathing into our girls, to let them know that the inner beauty is what counts. The inner beauty is what we walk in our purpose. It's
That's
not based on the beauty on the outside. Beauty on the outside is good. We want to look good. We want to look beautiful. Uh,
yeah.
but it's shadow. All right.
Yeah.
But the inner beauty, now that's a different story. And so I am so excited to talk to you ladies about your inner beauty, your purpose, and how you move in it, and how you continue in. And so let's get started here. I want to read um, your your bios. That's what I want to read. Let me just go to that real quick as I share you ladies' bios. And forgive me, normally I have that pulled up. So here we go. So I have my first person I have here is Robin. Robin Wilson. Thank you, Lord, for letting it come out that time.
Yeah.
Robin Michelle Wilson. She's a
Yeah.
teacher, author, nonprofit consultant, and motivational speaker. At the age of 4, Robin suffered a traumatic brain injury that led to a 9-year battle with epilepsy. While intellectually curious and creative from a young age, Robin had to overcome her seizure disorder and childhood reading challenges to start on a path of success. Today, she has overcome those challenges, woohoo, to serve as a literacy nonprofit founder, published children's author, poet, certified elementary school teacher, nonprofit consultant, and motivational speaker. She has taken lessons from her past and transformed them into a message of hope for the youth and women that she speaks to serve. that she speaks to and serves. Robin is the founder and CEO of Educational Consulting LLC. She combines her lived experiences, research knowledge, and professional experiences to guide nonprofit organizations in developing effective strategies for serving youth, especially young girls and women. My leadership superpower is in my ability to listen intentionally and intuitively, respond compassionately, and find some common ground with the people that I serve.
Yes.
And now we have On Powers, a prophetic missionary and dynamic teacher of the ways of God, whose words tend to quicken the deep things in people's spirit, soul, and mind to the reality of the kingdom. She has a business degree, discipleship certification, school of ministry, and is a certified master life coach. She is a vice president of Raise the Nations organization currently. She started and led a home church with her husband for over 8 years, started several small groups to teach, train, and activate believers to do the work of the ministry, and has discipled numerous believers. She also served as a missionary in Malaysia, worked with YWAM for 7 years, started and pastored a Vietnamese church from the ground up, which she led to many people being trained, equipped, and sent forth to start their own churches. Wow, this is so impressive, both of you ladies. Her passion is to help people discover their potential and help them walk in what God has called them to do in order to make a massive difference for the kingdom. She is always hungry for the deeper things of God and desires to know Him more today than yesterday. So, welcome On Powers and Robin Wilson. Thank you so much for being here, ladies.
Thank
This
you
is
for having
so
us.
awesome. You know, when I invite guests on, I do pray over my guests. And what I have come to understand that God really puts my guests together. He brings you guys together. And I couldn't have done this because the the intertwining of both of your stories, your challenges and struggles. And I can't
Mhm.
wait for you guys to talk about them more. An and I have had a discussion. We served over in the Dominican Republic together,
All
and
right.
I had an opportunity to really learn about her background and her strength and her determination and her resiliency. And Robin, knowing your story now and your resiliency and your strength to come out of what you were in, both of you ladies are so powerful. So let's get started here. I just want to ask you, tell me about your story. And I'll start with you, Robin. Tell me about your story and how and about your brand. Let's start there.
Okay. Well, I started my company, Robin Wilson Educational Consulting LLC, last year in April. And I started Robin Wilson Educational Consulting because for more than 10 years, I actually worked around literacy matters within the community. So, as you mentioned earlier, I started a nonprofit literacy organization when I was 23 years old. And I started that nonprofit organization.
23.
Yes, I was 23
Wow.
years old.
Wow.
And I really went forward with doing that work because of my own personal experience with having had challenges with my reading when I was younger. I had a lot of potential, I think, even from a very young age, but it was challenging for me to always see everything that I was capable of because of some of the struggles that I had. So I'm thankful that I had individuals in my life that God placed in my life along the way to really help encourage me because I've always been creative and one of the ways that I really expressed myself when I was younger was through the arts. And I've shared
Okay.
this, with people before, because I excelled at singing and drawing and just doing different things artistically. But when it came to reading, and when it came to my math, I struggled. And for
Mhm.
years, I really didn't know that why, I had these struggles. But when I was 13 years old, I actually had a church member of mine. She was one of our youth Bible study leaders. She went out after me when I walked
Okay.
out of a youth Bible study, because we were supposed to write a reflection to the Bible study lesson that had been given. And of course, because I was still struggling with my reading at that point, I could not complete that reflection. And so instead of saying that I needed help, instead of, speaking up, I just laid my Bible down and I walked out. And she went out after me. And she asked me what was wrong. And it was really the first time that I had opened up, that I was struggling in that way. My family, we were new to the church at that time. We had only been there for about a year. And you know how young people can be. Sometimes young people can be really cruel. And even though people within my school knew that I had struggles, I felt like my youth Bible study was the one place where I could kind of like, fly under the radar, where no one, would really know if I didn't read out loud or anything like that. And so I didn't want to be found out. I didn't want anyone in my youth Bible study to know that I was a struggling reader. And when my youth Bible study leader shared with me that she had once been a struggling reader herself, and she began to work with me, that really helped me. And I
Okay.
really started to come into myself and come more out of my shell, so to speak. I've
Mhm.
never really been shy, but I appeared shy to other people because I was really reserved, more so because I was fearful that
Yeah.
people would find out that I was a struggling reader. So that was really what led me to have compassion for individuals who were struggling readers, because I knew what that experience was like personally, and how humiliating it can be when you are put under pressure to perform, when you have to read before other people. And so fast forward to what the work that I do now, um, this is all tied into the work that I have been doing for years, because my company works with nonprofit organizations, churches, and schools to help them develop programs specifically around literacy. I specialize in literacy, um, and to help them reach youth and have high impact outcomes. And so the blessing in it all is that the same youth Bible study leader who helped me when I was 13 years old is now someone who I'm collaborating with for the reflective journaling course that I designed and that I will launch soon. And I say that because it's really
Wow.
a God moment. I say it's a God moment because, going from being 13 years old to walking out of a Bible study because I could not complete Bible study reflection, to being the owner of my own consultancy, educational consulting company, and designing a reflective journaling course for young people to find their purpose. It's really, I say that because I think that it has used and is still using, my experiences to help empower me to do the work that I do. Because if I had not had those experiences of going through those struggles, I don't know that I would have taken the path that I've taken, and that I would still be doing the work that I do. So even though I had struggles, I'm thankful for my struggles.
Yeah, thank you. That is so powerful, Robin. What a story.
Yeah.
Wow. And I know so many kids and even adults who have gone through that can really relate to your story. I have one of our guests, such impressive and inspirational backgrounds. So on, uh,
Yes. Yeah.
your story. Wow. And like I said, I had an opportunity to talk to you. Tell me about your story and your brand.
Yes. First, I just want to thank you for Robin's story. It's really inspiring.
Yes.
So, before I'm talking about our race, the nations, I want to share my background a little bit, how it lead to this. That I was grow up in a communist country, and so my family really gone through a lot of persecutions because we are Christians, and it's a communist country. They against Christians. So growing up, I mean, I really grow up in poverty. Like we didn't have electricity, we didn't have clean water, we didn't have toilet, and that's actually one of the things that when I was young, I dreamed just to grow up to have a nice toilet, just to sit in the toilet and read book. So that's kind of things that I grow up, and so like since really young age, like at 8 years old, I start really work so much on the farm. Like I get up like 5 o'clock in the morning to work, went to the farm and work and support my family and everything. And that's one thing. But another thing was made me really mad was, in our culture, as a woman, you don't really have a voice. Like you can't talk, you can't do anything. So like when I look at, all the life of the woman, what they do was they grow up and they just cook in the kitchen. They take care of the husbands. They really kind of like making baby. That's all they do, but they can't talk or have a voice. Like men was more important than women. So now I already grow up in poverty, and then in communist country you can't do anything. You can't go to school. Even you go to school, you can't go to work. I mean, my parents have educations and they can't go to work because we are Christians. So I was thinking to myself, I was thinking, oh God, if this is how I grow up, this is so purposeless and so hopeless. I mean, what can I do? I mean, I can't go to school. I can't talk. I can't do this. I can't do that. You know what kind of life like that? And all my life is just go serve the husband and serve the children. I mean, take care of the children and work. So I was crying out so much to the Lord. I told God, actually, every day when I was on the farm or get up early, I cry. I mean, you don't know how much I cry. I told God, I said, God, if when I grow up, when I turn 18, if nothing changed, you need to change something. If nothing changed, you just kill me. Either kill me or change things. That's exactly how I
Mm.
pray. I say, either you kill me or you change situations. And I think I cried so much that the Lord, by the mercy of God, he was thinking, I need to do something. Otherwise, this girl she gonna be depressed and gonna die. So he really gave me a visions of my future. So in the vision, what I saw was he took me out the country, gave me educations outside the country, and then I also became a missionary. So that two things was I saw, and it was gave me so much hope. I woke up and I was so excited. You don't know how much excited I am and say, oh my God, I have a purpose, I have a future, I'm gonna get out of this country and I'm gonna have educations and everything. So really just to cut the story short, when I turned 18, my dad still didn't have money. He said, I'm sorry, baby, I don't have money to give you to go to school. But all I can have, actually, all my dad he collect was enough money to buy the bus ticket. But I told him, it's okay. You don't have money, but Big Daddy have money, and I'm gonna leave this village. I'm gonna find my future. I'm gonna believe in the promise of God. So I really left that village with enough money to buy the ticket to get on the bus. And actually, from my town to the big university, it took 2 days. So, and I never been in that big university before, but I say, never mind, either I die here or I die there. It doesn't matter as long as I get out of this place. So, my dad, he took me to the bus stations and he bought the bus ticket and sent me on that bus, and I didn't eat for that 2 days. This was a long journey. It was a scary journey because during that time, there's so many people try to take advantage of young girls, and get them and sell them, human trafficking, everything. But I'm thinking, I'm going. It doesn't matter. But really,
Mm.
that step that I took, I got on that bus, and actually my life. actually really changed from that moment. Everything started changing, and from that, God took me to the Philippines and took me to Malaysia. I started studying Malaysia, and then I became a missionary, and then I pastored the church. I started a church over there, so I was a missionary in Malaysia for 7 years, and I started a church, and the church grew really big, and I started involving human trafficking. Seriously, I mean, the Lord just brought all kinds of stuff, and then I started, all these people
Wow.
became Christians. They all like some really third world country, migrant worker, the people that from Vietnam that never heard the gospel before, and I start share the gospel, start training them, and so the church grew really big, and they became, they start their own churches and pastored everything. Then after that, I moved to America. So I during that time I worked with 𝑽𝒐𝒊. That was one of the biggest missionary organizations, if you know about 𝑽𝒐𝒊. So I always worked with them. But then when I moved to America with my husband, I realized that we need to do our own ministry, because our visions a little bit different. We want to help people to find their purpose, but it's also help them how to walk in the purpose, whether they're business or they're missionary or they're pastor or they're teacher in every area of life. That's why we start our own organizations we call Raise the Nation. So really our purpose was really to help people to find that purpose and disciple them and help them, really to walk in their maximum, train them and walk in the maximum potential. So that's what we're doing. So we mainly do a lot of discipleship, to help people.
Woo!
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
That is so powerful. So powerful. Here I have Erica. She said, God hears our prayers. Yes. And then I have, yes, we have a purpose. And just when I think about both of your stories, when I think about what God has brought you both through, and how God does take the things that hurt us, uh, that can maim us, to move us into our purpose. He says that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord, right? So they're working for our good. And An, can you say again, how old were you when you got on that bus?
I was 18.
18.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you were 18 when you got on the bus, but you had started praying to God when you were younger. And God fulfilled that for you. That is so awesome and how powerful. So let me just ask you then, and I'll ask you this question. How did you know? I know you said over in Malaysia you worked with a pastor over there and the church started growing. So how did you start helping others? And you hint on a little, but how did you start helping others and knowing that that's what I'm called to do? I'm called to help people find their purpose. I'm called to help people to understand the kingdom.
So, like I say, in one of my vision when I was young was that's what God wanted me to do, to become a missionary. So I knew that's where I supposed to do, but of course, I didn't really know that clear during that time.
Okay.
However, when God brought me to Malaysia, and I start went out. I don't know, I mean, during that time, there's so much human trafficking all over the places, and there's so many people that was living poverty. They never been in school before and never really know the purpose of life. Like they really didn't know. Seriously, they didn't know anything. I mean, if I can tell you, I have time to tell you all the story. You will, you couldn't believe it. But because when I saw that, then I realized that, God gave me hope, because I was a hopeless, just like that. And
Hmm.
I'm thinking, and I found hope because of God. So now I'm going to give this hope to these people. That's all I can give. I mean, I don't have silver, I don't have money, but I have hope. And the hope is, the God of hope is
All
in me.
right.
So I went and I just go and talk to them about God, and then talk to them, about hope. And then I start work with them slowly, and they start find hope. And then I'm thinking, yeah, this is really what God want me to do. Then I'm just going to do it. So, but as I do it for many years, I start find out more what lane I was in, because as a pastor, the church is still a big thing as well. So it wasn't really small, but slowly I get deep into it, and I start defining more. My role was more on discipleship people, to help people really to see, to find the purpose, but not only to find the purpose, but help them to walk in the purpose God called as well.
All right. That is so beautiful, Ann. I love that. And Robin, so here's your story, right? You put the Bible down,
Yes.
walked out.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher, she reminds me of going after the one sheep, right? You were
Right.
the one sheep,
That's right.
and she left the rest to
Yeah.
come after Robin. And
That's
so
right.
she comes after you, Robin, and she brings you back, and you end up having, it appears, a fantastic experience with God in this church.
That's right.
So I can only imagine, really only imagine now how it's coming full circle for your reflective journal.
Yes.
Talk to me about that. Let's talk about that.
I am so excited. Last year, I approached her about developing an extension for the curriculum that I had already developed for a program that her nonprofit organization has. She asked me about 2.5 years ago now if I would develop some articles, if I would write some articles and create some videos for youth, to empower youth to find their purpose. And actually, she didn't tell me what it had to be about, because as I reflect on it, she didn't tell me what it had to be about, because I asked her and she said, pray about it, but I want you to share your story in some way with our young people. Can you write some articles about it and maybe create some videos to go along with it? So I did. And last year, when I started my company, I approached her about turning it into a more developed series that included a journal. She actually asked me, well, could you turn it into a journal? And already had the video footage, already had the articles. So I went to work on turning those items into a all out full journal. And so I finished the journal. I met with her again and presented it to her, and she really liked it. So now we're collaborating with one another. Youth who register for, it's called Living the P3 Principle, Live on Purpose with Passion and Have a Plan. And it's a
Okay.
5-week course. It's an online 5-week course that's designed for youth ages 12 through 18. And the intention of the course is to really help young people not only make wise decisions today that will lead to a better future for them, but to start the process of identifying their purpose. Finding our purpose doesn't happen overnight, and it
Yes.
is truly a process. And I think sometimes not only youth, but also some adults, especially young adults, feel pressured because they feel like they have to have all of the answers very early on in order to get started. But the truth of the matter is that you just have to take the first step. And part of taking the first step is writing the vision, right? And
Yes.
so that's where my course comes in, is I walk them through those steps of writing the vision and thinking about where they are right now, and then taking daily steps to get to where they want to be in the short term, which then we know can lead to a long-term outcome. But I think that being able to walk you through that process is a privilege, and being able to work with the Nurture and Wellness Group Foundation is also a privilege, because they do amazing work with young people. They work in a lot of schools in the Metro Detroit area. And Terry Brinston, who is over the program, who's over the organization, she actually gave me a mental health assessment that youth will take before they actually can move forward and registering for the course. Because one of the things that we discussed in developing the course is that we want to protect the mental health of our young people. And sometimes when you start to do intentional and reflective journaling, if you've experienced some type of trauma in your childhood or, you know, in your youth, then it can really take a toll on you. And Nurture and Wellness Group Foundation, they offer different programs to support youth with not only mental health, but also with breaking through some of those limiting beliefs and, you know, those mental barriers that sometimes not only youth, but, you know, but even some adults really deal with. And it comes from a real place because we all have a story, right? And so for me, being able to develop this course has been a privilege, not only because I get to work with young people, but one of the things that I love about being a business owner is that I get to be creative.
Yes.
And so I've enjoyed the process.
That is awesome. That is really, really awesome to hear. And to start with sensitivity, you know, to be careful of the fact. And I do a workshop on what's in the room. And so to know that you are starting to deal with what's in the room before you get to what's in the room.
That's right.
Because kids are coming from various backgrounds with hurts, pains, and disappointments and trauma.
That's right.
and, and so to make sure that you are addressing that right from the beginning, I commend you for that. Because sometimes we can miss that.
That's
You
right.
know, and we just think that kids are reacting out of, you know, it's just all of a sudden they just started clowning. No, something was missed and not addressed.
That's
So
right.
here we have Erica. She says, family, please watch when you get a chance. So powerful. And then she's naming all the family members that need to watch it. Thank you, Erica, for your support. Well, I want to ask you, because you both are leaders, and all that's going on in our world right now, particularly around leadership and around leading people, what do you consider, and I'll start with you, on, to be a good leader? And what are some of the qualities that you feel that a leader needs to possess?
So I think for me personally, was I think to have a good quality leaders need to have initiative quality, always kind of proactive in things that we do, and teachable spirit. You know, always listen to people and persistent. But also the things that to me the most important things for the current situation with our world, all I think is a quality of learn to be strengthen ourselves in the Lord, so that we can receive the strength to motivate other people. You know, because we watch so many things going on, and if we don't possess that um, quality to learn to get strength from above before we gave out the strength to other, I think that's really important. Because you know, sometimes, you know, as a leader you work and with other people, there's things that there's conflict and things like that, there's rejections, you know, there's things that people don't like or people don't agree with. What you gonna do with all that? You know, we're not gonna get offensive, because that's one of the traps that the enemy are doing right now in our country, you know. So but if we have that kind of quality, you know, to get that strength to be able to love those who that reject us, and able to motivate the very one that hate us, and I think that's really important right now.
Yeah, you know what? That is so powerful. Right now, I at I have a degree in counseling, and so I consider myself to be an empathic leader.
Yeah.
And what you just said is so powerful, but it's so difficult to do on. It is so difficult to do, because what happens is that we think of empathy as relating to what someone is saying and not literally walking in their shoes to see, you know, how they are seeing things and what what is their perspective.
Yeah,
So when we walk with people, Robin, we are walking with them
that's right.
from, oh, I can relate to what you're saying, but that's not empathy,
No, it's
right?
not.
No, that's sympathy, you know.
Yeah.
But empathy is really walking in the shoes of someone else and and seeing their perspective, no matter how crazy or irrational it may seem.
Yeah,
And that is not easy.
it's
So,
not.
Robin, I want to, want you to chime in on that.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think, at least for me, I think that one of the strengths or marks of a great leader is their ability to be vulnerable. Being vulnerable is not easy.
No.
It takes a lot of strength, and I think, especially if you come from a background where you're always taught that you have to be strong, and that's my story. I very much, I have a Black mom, and I came from that background where I was taught, like many of us, that you have to be strong. I had to even get to a point where I was comfortable with crying in front of other people. And then,
Mm.
I have a mentor who's been with me since I was 16 years old. And one of the things that I learned from her, and I mentioned her because in my mind, when I think about a great leader, I think about Kenyatta. And one of the most powerful ways that she has ministered to me, even from my youth, is through her vulnerability. And
Yes.
from her example, I really just learned that vulnerability is a strength. It's not a
Yes.
weakness. And I think, we live in a culture that sometimes makes you feel as if you are being vulnerable, that you're being weak.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's a weakness. I think it takes a lot of strength, especially when you're getting close to the people that you serve. I'll be honest, even for me, and being comfortable with being vulnerable, sometimes it is scary for me
Hmm.
to let certain people get close to me, because no one wants to be hurt. And the
Yes.
reality is that when you make yourself vulnerable in certain ways and you let certain people close to you, you run the risk of being hurt. And,
Hmm.
but I think that if you are serving from a place of good intention, and, you are doing things that, you're striving to do things that honor God, even if you end up getting hurt in the process, then I think for me, at least I can say, well, I did it for the kingdom. I did it, for, to honor God. I know I had the right intention. So, you have to be willing to make yourself vulnerable, because
Yeah.
you tend to reach people better when you're willing to say, hey, even if you haven't been through what they've gone through, if you are just willing to humble yourself and just listen to what they're going through, and then just be honest with them, even if you don't know what they're going through, from a personal experience, tell them, I can only imagine. I
Yes.
haven't had that experience, but it takes a lot of fortitude to get through something like that, and just coming from a place of humility to be able to encourage others so that they can fulfill whatever their leadership role is, whether it be underneath you or alongside you. But I think vulnerability is, in my mind, a mark of a great leader.
Yeah. That's really powerful, and that's one of the um, characteristics of a good leader.
Yeah.
And when I read books, John Maxwell is definitely one of our mentors, Ann and I. I don't know if you know John Maxwell, Robin.
Yes.
Um, but when I read books about what it means to be an effective leader, it really comes from a place of vulnerability and humility.
That's right.
And it seems we live in a society that looks at it in a different way. So very rare are you meeting leaders who are like that. So I want to ask you, ladies, vulnerability is definitely a characteristic, and leadership is really about influence.
That's right.
Nothing else, and nothing less. It's just all about influence, how we influence the character, the behavior, and the development of others. And both of you have had some strong leaders in your life. But tell me about some of your mentors. And sometimes I mean, I do believe that books can even mentor us. So tell me about some of your, yeah, I know, Robin, you mentioned a couple of your mentors, but tell me about some of the books and how you are still being influenced on by, by your mentors and by these books that you have considered to help change your life.
Me go
Yes,
first.
yeah.
Okay. So I have a lot of mentors in my life actually, but one of the lady, her name is Boon Lee. She's in Malaysia, and there's one things about her that really attract me, and I've been using it. She's a woman, but she have a strong personality. She leads church to big organizations. But one thing, I noticed was she never put personal life and work or ministry together. It means, when someone got mad at her or really talk bad about her, she's able, to learn to put that aside and still love that person as they are. And she always do that. I mean, I stayed with her for 7 years, and I see constantly people keep like bombarded with all kind of stuff, but she able to love them, able to still take them back in. Nobody take those people, but she still take them back in and let them stay in her own house and continue to support them, continue to mentor them, continue to teach them. So that's some things that I really learn a lot from her. So that character that I'm also learning, to apply myself, whatever that is, personal, emotional things, put it aside. But what is important is important. And but there are a couple of people that I learned from books. Was Bill Johnson. I don't know who
Oh yeah, Bill Johnson. Yes.
like my mentor in book, and John Bevere. So kind of like if you know them, you know what they written and what they taught and all. But they both was my mentor. And another one, I was under school with Randy Clark, and he's another one, and Michael Brown was another one. So their word and their book really shaped me a lot.
That's wonderful.
To have that strong mind and strong personality to keep moving and not let circumstances or the enemy or anything can come in and really knock me out of my purpose.
Yeah, I experienced you in that light. Robin, we were all at the table, and some, people were talking and some things were going on. And so Ann spoke up and she said, well, she started talking about Jesus.
That's
And so
awesome.
they listened to Ann, right? They listened to Ann, and she has some very powerful, passionate words. And so after Ann finished, the people went back to their original conversation. Ann said, and I don't even know that she realized that she said it out loud. She was like, I'm done. Got up and removed herself from the conversation.
That's
because
awesome.
for Ann, it wasn't following the conversation of God. Wasn't seeing the hope, I think, Ann. At least that's the way it appeared. And I was like, wow, she was like, have a good night, everybody. And got up and walked away. But I thought it was just so powerful.
That's
and
awesome.
that really impressed me about and I was just sitting there. So you never know who's watching you.
That's true.
Yeah, but Robin, for you, what has been some of the books that have influenced your life?
One that I love is by Lori Beth Jones, and it's called Jesus CEO. And it's a book that I discovered when I was younger in my early 20s. And I love it because it looks at Jesus as a CEO, as a leader, a servant leader. And each chapter focuses on different aspects of his leadership style based on, biblical references. And one of the chapters in the book talks about how, Jesus, he wasn't, well, fear wasn't, like necessarily a part of Jesus. Were there things like going to the cross that, he pled with, his father in that moment, because who wants to go to a cross, especially when you're innocent, but Jesus wasn't afraid. So when I say Jesus wasn't afraid, I mean, like, he wasn't concerned about, what other people thought, because oftentimes Jesus showed up in spaces and, like he people, we forget sometimes, they looked at him strangely, the way
Yeah.
he was talking and things that he was doing. And, obviously not everyone believed. And even today, not everyone believes. But my point was that he wasn't afraid to, of what other people thought or what they would think. He was just about his father's business. And, I referenced that because one thing that I've learned from my mentor, Kenyatta, I know I mentioned her earlier, going back to your question about what are we still learning about being a strong leader. And one thing that I'm learning is in my vulnerability to be more comfortable with sharing what some of my struggles still are. No, I'm not still a struggling reader. And, God has blessed me. I've gone on to become a writer, a children's author, but I do still have challenges. And I'll never forget a conversation that I had with Kenyatta last year. And I called her because, I was trying to navigate the speaking world and space. And I was showing up in some of these spaces, and unbeknownst to the people around me, I didn't always feel like I fit, because I was coming in, and it's not that I lack confidence. I want to make it clear that I can take stock in the things that I've accomplished. And I know I once had a friend of mine ask me, do you believe your own resume? And she asked me that only because in that moment I was bringing to her an insecurity that I had in that moment. And it was her way of saying, you already are great. And I think that, part of what I still sometimes experience, which I don't talk about a lot, is that when you come from a background like I do, where your teachers, when you were younger, weren't expecting you to grow up to be the person that you become. So you have to, work through a lot of challenges, not necessarily just to prove to, other people that you belong or that you're worthy, but that to some degree prove to yourself, I can do this. I can do this. And I think that while my reading challenges are in the past, and I've gone on to accomplish all of these amazing things with God's help, I still sometimes struggle with that within myself quietly. Often, most people around me, they would not know, unless I told them. Of course, people were really close to me, like Kenyatta. They've gotten calls from me where I'm like, I was in this space, and they called on everyone else first except for me. And and it was like I was towards the the last. And I just, even something as simple as that, most people would think like, well, it probably wasn't because they were trying to overlook you. Maybe that was just, I'm just giving an example.
Correct. Yeah.
But because of my background and because of my experience, when I was younger, I didn't necessarily always feel seen or heard. So there's still like this striving that I have within me. While all of the accolades are, like accumulating, it's almost like I still have this striving within me. And I'm getting to the point now, where I'm just like, no, I'm enough, like I'm enough in Christ. I'm enough, in him, and all of these other things that he's allowed me to accomplish. That's not what gives me my value. That's not what gives me my worth. yes, those things have their place. And yes, those are the things that the world typically values, right? We
Yes,
place value on those things, but who am I in Christ? Who am I,
yes,
in him? Who does he say that I am? And that's what I'm still striving to walk more fully in, and I'm learning from my mentor, Kenyatta, and also from, like I said, Jesus CEO, is that, you know what, God, he's perfect, but he doesn't expect us to be perfect. And you know what? Neither really does anyone else, because they know, we know we're not perfect, but being vulnerable enough to
uh-huh.
say to other people, hey, I still have my moments too. And this is something that, I still deal with. That's not always easy, even today for me. But I'm getting better because
Yes,
I admitted it to you,
yes, and
to your listeners. So I am getting better.
that is great, Robin. I love that what you just shared. Here, Erica said, "Love it on," and then so true, Robin. You know, that's the part of being vulnerable, right? That's the part of allowing our insecurities uh, to be known
Yeah.
and show that we're not perfect people. I think, though, Robin, I feel that people, when you have achieved much, is seem like you have it all together.
Yeah.
um and it's easy to do that. I've done it. When you watch people on television, you think, oh, they so together, and now, as I've gotten older, I realize that you can look good on the outside and be a complete hot mess on the inside. Okay, let's
Yes.
tell the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Just a hot mess on the inside. And that's what I meant earlier about that inner beauty. So, one, I want to tell you, I appreciate you sharing that insecurity, that when you were in a room and feeling like the last one called on, I have felt that way,
Yeah.
and taking things personally that's not personally,
Yeah.
and having someone to say, well, you know what, I'm sure they didn't mean anything personal about it. That
Yeah.
they were going to call on somebody, right?
Right. Right.
Right, they were gonna call on somebody, but I too have gone through that. So being vulnerable for our girls, being vulnerable for other women is so important, because that's what makes us stronger. And this is just stating what the Bible said. Paul said, "It is in my weakness
Mm-hmm.
that I'm strong." It's
Amen.
not it's not in those things that we think we so strong in. It's in our weakness to be able to share that with one another. And so, you're on to something, and stay with it. Stay on that journey with it. And Ann, did you want to say something? I want to give you an opportunity. We are running out of time, but I want to give you an opportunity, and then you can kind of close out about what beauty is for you, and how you're walking in it.
Um, you know, I grow up in a culture that nobody really value women's voice. So kind of since young, I train my mind to think really positive, and also think what God say, but not what people say. Because like Robin did talk about, sometimes we think we feel not enough and things like that, and people does really say things that make you feel not enough, and make you feel discouraging. But one thing I learned since young was I never really allow those affect my mind or affect my future, because I always go back to the place who I'm going to listen to. I
That's
am going to
Right.
listen to God, what he say about me, or I'm going to listen to that person's. I seriously, my whole family, my relative and back home, nobody will support me from beginning to left my hometown, because they keep saying, oh, you are just a woman, just gonna get married, and not gonna do this and not gonna do that. But I say, no, I have a future, and God already told me my future is not here. I'm gonna leave, doesn't matter. So kind of like, I just want to encourage everyone, one thing. with what going on in our world nowadays. Just focus and listen what God say to us, and not listen what people say. Even circumstances or all kind of storm that going on, or things that we see on the news. That's what the news do. They making money for it. So all we need to listen is what God's saying, to
Yeah.
you personally in the seasons of life. And all we need to focus on it. Because I think for me, so many times that recently, there's times that I get confused, but then I still have to go back to that place. Okay, God, what you say to me now? I'm not gonna let all these things confuse me. And then the Lord always bring me back what He tell me, and all I focus was what He tell me, and not let all the circumstances confuse me and make me go, not in the right lane, but the right track, but get me back to the right track, and just keep my eyes on focus, and not be distracted by the world, or by people, or by circumstances.
Right.
So that's all.
Yeah, that is powerful. Here we have some other um
Right.
here. Erica said, "Yes, Robin, I'm enough in Christ. All three of you ladies have given me so many golden nuggets today. Thank you."
Yeah.
And then Barb says, "We cannot be honest with others unless we are vulnerable."
That's so true. That's so true.
Preach, Regina Hall.
That's so true.
And
And
then
you,
Isaac Mang, great time spent listening to you all. Congrats, my friend on.
Oh,
That's
he's my
beautiful.
friend.
Yeah, yeah. So go ahead, Robin. Why don't you wrap us up and
yeah.
just share the beauty and what you would like to leave with people, what the inner beauty and what you would like to leave with people today.
What I would say is that, you know what, if God can find beauty in our brokenness, then we should be able to find beauty in our brokenness. It doesn't mean that everything that we go through in our lives is pleasant, or at least in the moment when we're experiencing whatever it is that we're experiencing. But that's what I would say. I would say that it, speaking about, internal beauty, um it's not always nice and neat. Sometimes it's messy.
Yeah,
And if God can find beauty in our brokenness, then
yeah,
we should be able to take a step back and say, okay, Lord, help me to take on your view. Because sometimes even our view is distorted. It's not how
yeah,
God sees us. And oftentimes it's what the way that we're viewing, ourselves might be influenced by others, and our own backstory, our own experience. But the way that God sees us is He sees us, He loves us, and He created us. And An talked about our purpose, that God has given us a purpose. He knew before we were born,
yes,
who we were. And so why wouldn't we trust Him? And I would just say, to me, that is the definition of inner beauty, is just really developing that relationship with God and letting Him
Mhm.
just strengthen you, especially in the areas where you might feel broken and that you might think, I can't let anyone else know, this, or I
yes,
can't share this. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, unless we've healed in a certain way, it is hard to share. But if you do that work in terms of seeking Him and asking Him to help you in those areas, He will use those areas that you were like,
Mhm.
I can't tell people that,
yes,
to bless other people. Because ultimately, our experiences are not just for ourselves, but they really are to help other people in some
Mhm.
way. And you just don't know how your
Amen.
story might just bless someone and what they're going through, and let them know, at minimum, you're not alone.
yes,
So that's what I would just like to leave your listeners with, is that there's beauty. God sees beauty in your brokenness.
Amen.
And don't be afraid to let Him, come in and do that work. And then once you've healed, then share it with someone else so that they can be blessed.
yes. That is powerful.
Amen.
Give
Amen.
yourselves a hand, ladies. Thank you so much for you have blessed so many people today. And if you bless one, it has a tripling effect, right?
Right.
So, we are so happy. I say we happy, but I'm happy. I'm happy and I see smiles on your face. So
Yes.
I'm just assuming that you guys are happy. And thank you so
Yes.
much for sharing because you have truly exhaled
Yeah.
into people's lives today. And thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Again, here we have uh, awesome. Oh, okay. Awesome dialogue. Vernell Wilson. Hey, Vernell. Let me say. Such powerful stories from these remarkable women. Thanks for sharing. I'm sorry, Dyla. I'm sorry, Dayla. I think
That's
I'm
right.
sorry if
Another friends of mine right there.
Okay, good. Thanks for sharing wisdom. I've enjoyed listening and learning, and forgive me for messing up your name. Uh, and here's Erica. Our experiences aren't just for ourselves. Yes. So I want to just thank you, ladies, for sharing your stories today, becoming and being vulnerable to our audience because that's what's really needed. I want us to be vulnerable and take off the mask
Mhm.
like we have it all together. It's not like we don't step into that every once in a while because like Robin and On, you said we're not perfect.
That's right.
But the more we can take off the mask
Hmm.
and just be us, be authentic. That's really authenticity is being vulnerable, being humble, and recognizing that everybody has a purpose and nobody is better than anybody. My pastor used to say, everybody is leveled at the cross.
That's right.
And you ladies have demonstrated that today. And I so thank you for sharing. It was really powerful. I
Yep.
want to invite my guests. First, I want to thank you for your comments and you taking out the time to listen and stay with us for the entire time. Thank you, Erica and Barb and Delilah and Isaac and all the others and Vernell for being a part and those who I did not call. Thank you so much for being a part of Exhale with Regina. I do have an event coming up on this Saturday.
Yes.
And I want to, I don't see my, I'm trying to find my, I don't see it. Oh, here it is. My website. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm having a vision board party this Saturday on January the 29th from 4 to 6 p.m. You can go to my website, reginachall.com, and find out more about it. The vision board party is really designed to show that it's just not about putting um, magazine pictures, those quotes, just putting it on the board, but to know that those things can come alive for us. I have been doing a vision board consistently for the last 3 years, and I can tell you right now that a lot of what I put on the board has come to fruition. And so it matters if we visualize and if we see our lives in different ways. So if we're struggling, that is one way to see ourselves, to see ourselves as we want to see ourselves. We're not one and done. We don't have to take the attitude of, well, you know what? That's the way I was raised. No, that's behavioral. A behavior can change.
Can
So I want
change.
to encourage you today to join me at my vision board party. It's called Own Your Voice and Claim Your Dreams. So I invite you to join us. Thanks again for joining. You ladies have a wonderful and blessed day. Stay with me. Don't leave. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part. And I will see you. I have another comment. I will see you in 2 more weeks. Thank you and God bless you. And Vernell says thank you. You guys are so welcome. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.